1997. I'm here to review chapter 521 of Fairy Tale entitled The Mightiest Mage. And this chapter, this chapter somehow redeemed itself for what happened last chapter, alright? Because I mentioned in my last review that the chapter was boring and the hype for E&D was gone. That's basically my thoughts about what happened last chapter. But this chapter, however, it somehow managed to redeem itself. Because, for one, the battle between Gidarts and August is just so friggin' epic. I mean, Gidarts is like the only decent character to actually have a very fair fight. And it makes sense, because August was considered like the strongest of all of Spring of 12, while Irene was considered to be the strongest woman in Spring of 12. And to see these two go toe-to-toe, this is just so hype. August versus Gidarts, that was just so powerful. Okay, but before I get to that, let me just start on what happened in the chapter. Now, the first part of the chapter, it starts out with everyone returning to Magnolia and the first telling everyone to return to the guild hall. And we have Loxus carrying the deceased Magaroth. Now, when I first saw the scene, this got me thinking that maybe Magaroth is actually dead, and maybe they can't bring him back. Because for one, when he used the fairy law, the first, or Mavis, mentioned that that when he used fairy law again, it decreased some of his lifespan. And in the process, he sacrificed himself to protect his own children. And that's what he did. But what I will be disappointed is that if there were to be a way to bring back Magaroth, then his whole death will be for nothing then. Because, look, this arc has really been trolling us when it comes to deaths. And I know in death is very rare when it comes to Fairy Tail, but his death actually means something. And if he was brought back, it will be pointless. I mean, think about it. I mean, if you look at the supposed deaths between like Gagio or Juvia, their death meant something to the other characters. But then all of a sudden they were brought back. Gagio was thought to be going to hell, but it was brought back due to Irene turning the whole Magnolia, the whole country to Universe 1, and then Gagio somehow managed to avoid going to hell. And then Juvia transfusing her blood into Grey and saying that she'll always be a part of him, but somehow managed to be revived thanks to Wendy. So yeah, I was kind of a bit trolled. So back onto Magaroth, if we say that he is dead, then I will be so sad and happy that his death means something, and just feel very sad that he just gave up his own life just to protect his own children. But if he was brought back, then his death just it was just be mainly pointless. And then the whole thing with Loxus, though, is that, I mean, think about it. Loxus has really come a long way since, from the beginning, he was considered a jerk, but now he's like a nice guy now. And yeah, Loxus has really come a long way. I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised if he actually becomes the next master for the guild. Because look, in the beginning, he wanted the whole guild to be different and want strong ones, not pathetic ones. But this Loxus, he's really a changed man, if you think about it. So we'll just see. Or if not, Urza, because since, well, she was temporarily master until Magaroth returned. But okay, but I'm getting off topic, alright? Now, we also cut to to one of the Strius siblings defeating the remaining Spring 12. Mary Jane finishing off the guy that has the skull in his forehead. I forgot his name. It's the guy that got defeated by Natsu along with Lucy because he doesn't want to see Lucy's cleavage. And the same thing happened with Mary Jane. So yeah, he got totally defeated. And then we have Eldman and Lizana facing off against Ajayi. Okay, that guy I remember, the Sand Mage. And yeah. And then his grandfather appeared and just begs them to spare his grandson, which is Agil. And yeah, you can tell that at this particular point, Spring 12 has just literally lost at this point, because there's no worth of continuing fighting at this point, because there is nothing to win anymore, because, well, Fairy Tail has just proven once again that they're just too overpowered. And the whole thing with Spring 12, it's just been a really disappointment. Except one or two mages that really got my attention. But I'll get to them in a minute. Now, after that, we cut back to Natsu and the others who were outside Lucy's apartment, and they were wondering where Grey is. And then we have British, along with a small small Damera, and she's telling them that there's no point of fighting anymore, so she's just gonna leave. Now, at this particular point, British at this point, she's basically complete neutral at this point, because she doesn't care what happens to Fairy Tail, or she doesn't care what happens to her country. She's just completely neutral. Now, a lot of people were speculating that that British might join Fairy Tail by the end of this arc, and that's what I was hoping too. But it doesn't look like at this point she's just basically neutral, and she and Lucy just come down here saying that they're just gonna be good friends. Since, well, their parents were good friends too, but again, we'll just see how British does by the end of this arc. And then of course, we still one question remains: where exactly is Gray? Now, all of us already know where he already went, along with Natsu. But before we get to that, this is where they forgot one last Spring 12 member, and that is August. This is where it gets redeemed. August basically sees all the Spring 12 members have all been defeated, and he's the only last member left. And he's gonna exterminate everyone with his last bit of magic. And then from the sky, it came Gidarts. Yes! The strongest mages clashes. Alright? The strongest mage of Fairy Tail versus the strongest mage of Spring 12. This is where it gets hyped. Because look, the battles in this arc was not too good. There were some that were decent, but some I just find it not too good. Either look, here's a big example. Here's the Urza versus Irene fight. Now, in the beginning of the fight was good, but then when it came to the ending, I didn't like the outcome, which was very bad. Now, this fight in particular, you had like the strongest mage of Fairy Tail versus the strongest mage of Spring 12. That makes sense. And when it comes to Gidarts, whenever he fights, this is where it gets awesome, because he's like the most overpowered character of all of Fairy Tail, since he is like the strongest. So I cannot wait if we get an extended version, either like in the next chapter or in the next one, because this is basically like a preview how it's gonna be. If not, then I just hope like the outcome between Gidarts and August will be decent, unlike Irene's. Alright, so let's just hope for that. And now we get to where exactly is Gray Fullbuster. And yeah, he's at the guild hall meeting up with Zeref. And he's telling him, hey, you're saying my spot. And then Zeref says, I'm sorry, Natsu. And then Natsu, who is heading to the guild hall right now where Zeref is, and says, Gray is where Zeref is located. I think that's what he said. Yeah. And then it ends the chapter. And the next chapter is entitled Gray's Trump Card. And I just cannot wait. Because look, this ending makes sense. Because after all, Gray has been through a lot when it comes to like all the creatures that came out of Zeref's book. I mean, what would Deliora being the main cause from his childhood, causing the death of his own master, and now finding the soul, and now figuring out that E&D was turning out to be his best friend, but figuring out that, but decided to take his own frustrations at the man who started it all, which is Zeref. So yeah, this actually makes sense. Now, when it comes to Trump Card, I'm gonna see how his Trump Card is gonna go. Either performing like his Ice Devil Slayer magic towards Zeref, or maybe like I shall or something like that. I don't know exactly, but we'll just see how Gray performs against Zeref in the next chapter. All right. Also, speaking of the next chapter, the next issue for Weekly Shonen Magazine announced that Fairy Tail will have 2 additional chapters, along with the next one being Gray's Trump Card. Now, I don't know what the second one is titled, but we'll just see. Along with new information regarding the new Fairy Tail film that is going to come out this year. Now, I never really watched like the first film of Fairy Tail, which is entitled the Phoenix Prius. Yeah, I think that was called. I never saw it, but I heard good things about it, so I might check it out for myself. So yeah, that's basically it for the chapter. All right. So overall, this was better than when we had last chapter. I mean, I mean, the pacing was good. The fight between August and Gidarts is just getting started. And the Seeds Gray meeting against Zeref, that got the hype up back up. This is just getting good. This is getting awesome right now. So, but overall, my final thoughts will be a 4 out of 5. Now, I did mention that there's some parts I'm not too pleased about. We couldn't see more of an extended fight between August and Gidarts. That was the only thing I kind of was disappointed. But again, we'll just see how the next 2 chapters are next week. Alright? So, what do you guys thought about this chapter? Was it good? Was it bad? Or was it not quite your expected? But to me, I find it awesome. Alright? So, that's basically what I had to say. Alright? So, make sure you like the video, like it, dislike it, and like it. And please share your thoughts down below. What you thought about this chapter, along with what if there's anything I may have missed or may have mistaken while reviewing the chapter, please do so right now in the comment section below. And please be sure to subscribe to my channel because I am so awesome and I try to improve for future videos for the near future when it comes to that. Alright, so that's all I had to say, alright? So thank you and good night.